Hello, learners. Once again, how are you? I know you are very fine. Today, it is mathematics P4 class, and your teacher today is Wile Nsinikwel, who is going to take you through a very beautiful topic known as fractions. I hope you've ever heard of this word. Sometime back, maybe in P3, you've ever heard of this. Have you ever tried to ask yourself? But before that, let's first note the following. As I finish this lesson today, I want you to have learned the following. How to define the word fraction. At the end of this lesson, I expect everybody over there to have learned how to identify a part of a fraction. I mean a part of a whole. How does it look like? At the same time, I would wish at the end of this lesson, when everybody can at least give me an example of a fraction. Under types of fraction, we shall also see how I will expect you to have given at least 2 or 3 examples of each type of fraction. As we move on, I also expect you also to have known how to change from an improper fraction to a mixed fraction. What we normally say, it is a mixed number. Learners, watch as we go through this lesson. Fractions are this, or if we are to define the word fraction, this is what we call a part of a whole. A fraction, as I can write it, is a part of a whole. You can ask yourself, teacher, what do you mean by a whole? Members, you've ever seen oranges? You have ever seen a sugar cane? You've ever seen a tomato? So, as long as I've drawn my tomato here, assume this is a tomato. This is a whole. It is one thing. But this whole can be split into other smaller parts. Assume I've split this tomato into 2. And eventually, let me shed one of the 2 parts. So, we name this one as a part of a whole. Likewise, this side is also another part of a whole. So, we mean this one you have seen me shading can also be called a fraction. Not only from mangoes, oranges, it can be a sugar cane. Assume it is a sugar cane. Those who have ever taken one, it has the nodes of this kind. Before it is broken into these nodes, now it is a whole. But a teacher may decide to remove one part, one node from the whole, and he gives it to John. So we call this one a part of a whole sugar cane. Hope we are together. So, like you can imagine other things, this can be a whole, and you can split it into other smaller parts. Assume I've removed this one, and somebody may ask you, have you seen the fraction, the part that has been shaded? You know how to name these fractions right away from P3. That now we can call it a third, whereby one part of the whole, all the 3 parts has been shaded. So, hope everybody has got what we mean by a part of a whole, as well as a fraction, which we have said it is a part of a whole. Now, let's move a bit. Under fractions, we have types. Call them types. Everybody said types. We have what we call types of fractions. I know some were mentioned in P3, but let's remind ourselves the parts of the fraction. We have one which is called unitary. Unitary fractions. Sorry. Most of you have ever heard the word unitary. It is from the word unit. As you can hear the word unit. Unit means one. Unity means one. So, unitary fractions, these are fractions whose numerator is 1. We shall be looking at examples of each of these types. Let's first mention. Second one you can think about, we have improper. Improper fractions. You also in P3 had what we call proper. Everybody said proper. Proper fractions. We shall also move on and we'll see what we call mixed. Some call them mixed numbers, others call them mixed fractions. They all work. As we move on under this lesson, we shall also meet another type. Hope you've never heard of this one. It is called equivalent fractions. Before we may at least reach here and you say, these are enough for us. But as you move on P5, teacher Dennis will tell you what we call decimal fractions. But in this case, for us, we shall at least manage to reach here. But for today, we cannot talk about all these. It is quite big. We are going to at least to choose like 2 of them, and we shall move with them until we move slowly by slowly the end. So, I want just to explain this one, but my emphasis today is between improper and proper. Okay? Hope you are following me. I'm going to talk about only unitary fractions. Then you'll give me some examples. Then my intention today to be here, my emphasis is under improper fractions and proper fractions, if not mixed. Sorry, it will be improper and mixed. These two, we shall move with these two, improper and mixed. Because that is the way they are related. That's why I want to take them at once. If I go to unitary fractions, members look here. Unitary fractions. Before I want you to watch carefully. If I talk of unitary fractions, these are fractions, we call them fractions, whose numerators, whose numerator is 1. I may put it like that. Hope in P3 you learned about types of these fractions. We have numerators and denominators, if you can go back to check. So if I ask you to give me some of these examples of unitary fractions, let me first guide you with one, and you'll give me the rest. I have a fifth. Remember, these fractions, make sure that numerator, or the upper digit, as we call a numerator, must be 1. For the denominators, it can be any. But with the numerators, it must be 1. Can you give me others? Yes. Somebody is saying, teacher, a tenth. Very good. Give me another example. Somebody is saying, a teacher, 1 out of 23. I know you can give as many as you can over there. Think about very many examples, as long as its numerator is 1. That qualifies to be a unitary fraction. I told you the word unitary is from the smallest word, which is called unit. Unit means 1. So my emphasis today is about how we can look at, let's first look at what we call improper fraction. Improper fractions. Have you ever asked yourself these improper fractions? And we define improper fractions as fractions whose numerator, whose numerator is bigger than denominator. Numerator, remember here, we had 1. But in this case of improper, they are saying the numerator must be bigger than the numerator. What do we mean here? If I am to give examples, somebody has, 3 halves. A numerator, which is 3, is bigger than the denominator. I can give you the second example. 15 out of 6. You look at 15 being a numerator is bigger than 6, which is a numerator. Give me more examples over there. As we can move on, somebody is thinking about giving me 4/3, correct? Somebody think about 11 quarters. Very fine. You can give me more examples as much as you can. Now, allow me to go to what we call mixed. As I told you, I want to relate improper and mixed. Then later we shall come back at proper and other fractions. What do you think could be mixed? As you can hear the word mix, you are mixing tea and sugar. We are going to see a combination of more than one things in one here, whereby we say mixed fractions. These are fractions with whole numbers and mixed whole numbers and proper, not mixed, but proper fraction. Now somebody is saying, teacher, now why are you bringing proper fraction now? What are they? Proper is the opposite of improper. Those who have been watching here. Proper is the opposite of improper. Can I have a definition of proper fraction? Because improper, we said these are fractions whose numerator is bigger than the denominator. So, let it be likewise. Proper fractions are fractions whose numerator is smaller than the denominator. Hope you can give me examples as much as you can. One has given me 2 out of 6, correct. Another one, 4 out of 8, 10 out of 13, very correct. Those are proper. whereby the numerator this time is smaller than the denominator. So, somebody saying, examples of mixed fraction. Examples of mixed, because we have said mixed fraction must involve a whole number and a proper fraction. Somebody say 2 is representing a whole number and 2 out of 7 is representing a proper fraction. So we have 2 whole numbers and 2 sevenths. Give me another example. Somebody saying a whole number and 6 tenths. Very correct. Give me more. We want to have a mixed fraction whereby there is a whole number and a proper fraction. Not improper, but proper. Somebody saying, teacher, I have 11 whole number and 7 out of 13. Correct. Please, I know you can give me as many examples as you can. Okay? I know you are watching this one. Very interesting. Right away from where I started from. Now I'm going to the sensitive step whereby I want you to watch carefully. And this is none other than changing. We are going to change. As I told you, changing improper fraction to mixed fraction. I want you to watch carefully. Why? Right away from where I started from, nobody is going to ask me, teacher, what do you mean by improper fraction? We said it here. Fractions whose numerator is bigger than the denominator. Teacher, what about mixed fraction? We have said it. It involves a whole number as well as a proper fraction. One example. If somebody can give me any example, somebody saying change. I'll assume it is 7 halves as an improper, as I said here, to mixed. Somebody call it mixed number. What can it be a mixed fraction? What steps do you take? Look here and learn something today. If we have 7 halves, this is the same as 7 divided by 2. As we take over our second example, remember we are going to follow the same methods. But when it comes to your turn, make sure you choose one. Don't take all. It is not allowed. As I take the first method, as I've said, 10 thirds is the same as to say 10 divided by 3. So here we shall have our 10 as a dividend, okay? Then 3 is our divisor. Then we look for the quotient and the remainder. How many 3's can make 10? That's why we say, somebody can say, if I have my 3 children and I have 10 maybe sweets, let's share them. 1, 1, 1. Those are 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Wow. So this one, this one, this one. So somebody saying, yeah, it is 3. Each of them has taken 3, but what is this one? It is what we call the remainder. Are you there? Somebody will come and say it is remainder. 1 sweet has remained. But now, what is this 3? If you go back here, as I was trying to name them, this 3 is what you call the denominator. Our whole number is here, and our remainder is defined as the numerator. So we shall finalize and say, if I have 10 thirds, finally I will have the whole number, which is 3, which is written a bit bigger compared to the other one. Then it will be 1 out of 3. And you find that it ends there. If I want to move on to the second method, which I gave you here, method 2. For those who followed me carefully, I have 10 thirds. Here we are going to see how many times do we add 3 to get 10. Somebody saying 3 plus 3, I get 6. 6 plus 3, I get 9. What should I add 9 to get 10? Somebody saying, teacher, add only 1. So that if I add 3 plus 3 plus 3 plus 1, automatically will come up with 10. But what do you do to the numerators? We maintain. In other words, we don't change the denominator. Now look, 3 divided by 3, it gives us a whole. I remember you learned wholes in P1, P2. So this will give us a whole, plus this is also a whole, plus this is also a whole. But will this one give us a whole? Somebody saying no, you have to bring it back the way it is. Therefore, we shall add 1 plus 1 plus 1, and we shall have 3 plus a third. Finally, we shall get 3 as our whole number, as I mentioned this way. And our proper fraction in this case is a third. Yes, underline as usual to leave your work smarter. Hope it has been so good from the start, as I said, as I reach on the last point, I know now you can define the word fraction. You can now identify a part of a whole, maybe from a mango, from an orange, from a tomato, from a sugar cane, whatever you can at least divide into some parts. We went and looked at the fraction, types of fractions, just mentioning them. You can read them by yourselves. We saw the unitary fractions, and I had to define what a unitary fraction is. You saw them. Those are fractions whose numerator is 1, plus some few examples we gave. Other examples remained there with you, which I know you are going to write for me. We also looked at improper fractions. Improper fractions, these are fractions whose numerator is bigger than the other one, which is down. The numerator is bigger than the denominator, which is down there. We also looked at proper fraction, and I told you proper fraction is the opposite of improper, whereby in this case we shall look at the numerator, which is on top, being smaller than the denominator, which is down, like the examples you gave me. So we also looked at mixed fractions, and these mixed fractions, I've said, mixed fractions are those fractions with the whole numbers and the proper fraction. You find that it is mixed with the whole number, and the next is the proper, not improper. Are you getting me? Then we also say equivalent fractions will be talked about as we move. P5, P6, you'll also be told how decimal fractions look like. Then we looked at everything, plus their examples. Last, I had to move, and I say how to change improper to mixed. Improper, you can see improper fractions. The example I gave was 7 halves. I know you had to follow me to what I was doing here to come up with a mixed fraction as 3 whole number and a half. I had to apply another simpler method. But in this case, I told you, please, you have to choose which is good for you, which is simpler for you to be applied in doing this, which you will never forget, because the fractions don't stop here, they move further. I had my second example as you watched. We had 10 thirds, and they were changed from improper to mixed. You followed the first method as I moved up to here. And I ended with the second method as you were watching. Hope you are going to do my work that I will put as you recall whatever has been said from the start to the last. I want to thank you for listening, and Stay safe.